Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Easy English Bible Study Podcast. My name is David Gray, and together we're going to study the Bible and learn some English. Okay, let's get started. Welcome again to the podcast. Well, today we're going to do the reading for the ninth Sunday after Pentecost. The ninth Sunday after Pentecost. And our reading is from Matthew, the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 13, verses 44 to 52. The Gospel of Matthew, chapter 13, verses 44 to 52. So let's read. It's Parables of Jesus, and we're going to do this in easy English to help us understand the Bible better. Okay, so let's start now with verse 44. The name of this parable in my Bible is The Parables of the Hidden Treasure and the Pearl. Okay, verse 44. The kingdom of heaven is like treasure hidden in a field. When a man found it, he hid it again, and then, in his joy, went and sold all he had and bought that field. Okay, so Jesus tells many parables, and he talks about what the kingdom of heaven is like. When he talks about the kingdom of heaven, he's not talking simply about heaven, but he's talking about God being in control, God's kingdom here on earth, and God's kingdom in heaven too. God's kingdom on earth is for all of us who believe in God and who have God as our ruler, as our king. And so, what is the kingdom of heaven like? It's like a treasure hidden in a field. So you can imagine if someone has a field and they have a hole, they dig a hole in the field and they put the treasure in the hole. They bury the treasure. They hide it in the field so nobody knows where it is. It seems like some people did that in old times. They would hide things in the ground because maybe they didn't use a bank and they needed to keep it somewhere. I'm not saying everyone did it, but it seems like some people did. So, a man finds a treasure in a field, and it looks like nobody owns the field. It doesn't belong to anybody. He just finds it in a field, and in this story, in this parable, he's so happy, but he wants the treasure so much that he buys the field. He buys all of it because the treasure is so important to him. So that's what the kingdom of heaven is like. And so maybe what that means is that the kingdom of heaven, our relationship with God, is so important. Or in this example, his relationship with God is so important that we would sell everything for the sake of our relationship with God. Okay, let's look at the next one. Verse 45. Again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it. Okay, so pearl. Do you know what a pearl is? Pearls. Some people have necklaces, a necklace or ring or earring with pearls. They're very valuable and often worn as jewelry. You can look it up in the dictionary if you don't know that word. But again, the kingdom of heaven is like a merchant, someone who sells things looking for fine pearls. When he found one of great value, he went away and sold everything he had and bought it. Okay, so again, this is similar to verse 44. The person would sell everything they have to have it. It's that valuable to them. So, how about you and me in our relationship with God? Okay, we'll talk about that more later. Let's continue. Okay, next, let's read verses 47 to 52. Okay, this is called the parable of the net. Once again, the kingdom of heaven is like a net that was let down into the lake and caught all kinds of fish. When it was full, the fishermen pulled it up on the shore. Then they sat down and collected the good fish in baskets, but threw the bad away. Okay, so this image is a little different now, right? From the pearls and the treasure. This is a different kind of story, different kind of parable. But again, it's about the kingdom of heaven. And we know about a net, using a net to catch fish. But the fisherman separates the fish, the good fish, from the bad. The bad are thrown away. Verse 49. This is how it will be at the end of the age. The angels will come and separate the wicked from the righteous. Okay, so in the parable, Jesus is saying, separating the fish, the good fish, from the bad fish, is similar to what will happen at the end of time on earth when people are judged, and the angels will do the job. It will be the angels' work to separate the good from the bad, or the word here is to separate the wicked, which usually means very bad, from the righteous. Righteous are those who have a right relationship with God. They're right with God. Verse 50. And throw them into the blazing furnace, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. This is a very sad image. And we had this image last week when we did a previous parable about the weeds, where the weeds are burned um, and they're thrown into a furnace. And also, Jesus, again, that was in verse 42 from last week's episode, last week's podcast, same chapter, verse 42. Jesus again says, there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. People will be crying deeply. People will be very sad. They will have regret, maybe bitterness, that kind of thing. So we talked about that last week. Jesus is repeating, Jesus is saying it again. But next, verse 51, Jesus says to his followers, he says, have you understood all these things? Jesus asked. Yes, they replied. Interesting, they say they understand, because often the disciples say they don't understand what Jesus is saying, but here they do understand. I guess they understand the idea of judgment. That's not difficult for them. because God talks about judgment before in the Old Testament. Yes, they replied. Verse 52. He said to them, therefore, every teacher of the law who has become a disciple in the kingdom of heaven is like the owner of a house who brings out of his storeroom new treasures as well as old. I wonder what that's about. I looked it up in some commentaries, and some of them say that um, basically in the kingdom of heaven you can have old treasures. In the old treasures would be the teachings that we have from the prophets and the Old Testament, and then the new treasures could be the teachings from Jesus. Is that what it means exactly? I'm not sure, but that's something I found. Okay, so that's the parables, the hidden treasure, the pearl, and the net. And they all talk about the kingdom of heaven. I do find it really hard to talk about hell and the angels separating and people going to heaven and some people going to hell. But I find, I don't know about you, but for me, I find that that's a topic we often don't want to talk about. We don't want to think about. And I guess it's strange, right? Isn't it strange that we don't think about it because don't we want to be with God? That's the most important thing, right? To be with God. And in the earlier parables, the one about the treasure and the pearl, having a relationship with God, God's kingdom, is like a treasure. It's like a pearl that anything, you would do anything to have. Have you had something in your life like that? I have. I've had times when I was young where I wanted to do anything to have something. I remember when I was young, there was a contest. And in this contest, I could win ice hockey pucks. Do you know what that is? Like, you know how there's a soccer ball or baseball or football. In ice hockey, there's pucks. And we hit them with the stick. And there was a collection of ice hockey pucks at my school when I was in high school. And if you sold, if you we had to sell chocolate, if you sold the most chocolate in your school, if you did that, you could win these ice hockey pucks. Well, I love ice hockey, and I loved it then, and I really, really wanted to win. I was going to do anything to win. So it was from Thursday to Monday, and after school Thursday, after school Friday, all day Saturday, and all day Sunday. Sorry, I worked on the Sabbath. All those times, all day, even at church, I tried to sell the chocolate. And I worked very hard because I would do anything to win this prize. And I did. I won. And so I learned that if I if I'm like that, if I'll do anything to win, put in any effort, that it's amazing what's possible. But in Jesus's parable, the point is, I think, this is what I'm learning. Do you know we can love God that much with our whole heart, our whole mind, to have a relationship with God. And so those parables are about that. And so then we come back to heaven and hell, and we don't like to talk about it, right? I don't. And but for me, I find reading this Bible verse this week and last week, I find I have to ask myself, hmm, I think I need to think about this more. I need to think more about the judgment and about how those who are with God will be with Him in heaven, and those who are not will be, well, I'm not sure. It seems to be in hell. And I say seems to be because I don't know exactly what hell is like. We have an image of fire and burning and sadness. So I think we need to take it more seriously. I think we need to take it much more seriously. That's what I'm learning today. So that's the end of today's reading, and that's the end of my thoughts about it. I hope you could understand my story as well. And this podcast is using Bible readings each week from a 3-year calendar, 3-year church calendar. This calendar is used in many churches, including the Protestant Church and the Catholic Church, many different churches. And these readings are used in church when people go to church. So the one that you're listening to now, today, is being used this Sunday in church, that in churches that use this reading. And many churches use it, many churches don't, but I hope this is useful for you. Okay, well, thank you so much for listening. I hope today's Bible reading was helpful for you, and maybe you had lots of thoughts to think about. If you like this podcast and you want to listen to it regularly, you can subscribe, and you can also contact me by email. The email is easyenglishbiblestudy@gmail.com. easyenglishbiblestudy@gmail.com. Okay, well, I'm looking forward to seeing you next week. We're going to continue with Matthew, and we're going to look at chapter 14, verses 13 to 21 next week. Okay, take care. God bless you. Bye-bye.